almost none of our guys were draft eligible that year. So like everyone's coming back if we were able to beat the portal and use all of this experience, right? And this feeling that we have right now to continue to develop for the rest of the year, one, and then two, carry us into next year.
Nieko Torres, all lined up for the start of school, looking like $1 million. Senior performance coach, Louisville Baseball, spending time at Tulane, Florida A&M, Mississippi State. And before kind of how we met, he was at Tulane, I was at Northwestern. Spent maybe a total of like 2 hours together, but I could already tell he was a good dude. We stayed in touch and could not get him on the podcast. So thanks for hopping on. How are you doing today? Tell me something good that's going on in your life, and we'll go from there.
Going on. I appreciate you having me, and yeah, I've been looking forward for the opportunity to hop on this thing. And no, so like you mentioned, at Louisville now. So what's going on is, organizing and figuring out the chaos of all that what needs to be done here for the school start of school on Monday.
So anything and everything is going on.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it.
And then where do you originate from, location
I'm
wise?
from, yeah, I'm from New Jersey originally.
Yeah, okay,
North Jersey, just outside New York City, just a real small town. Um, part of the state where it's Taylor Ham.
gotcha. Because
Yeah.
I was reflecting on all the spots you've been at, and they're all kind of east, south, southeast. So
Hmm.
figured you're probably from that third of the states. So
Yeah. And at one point in time, I thought I'd never leave the South just because I like the warmth. Granted, Kentucky, you can kind of make that argument, but it's going to get fairly chilly here. So, I
what's
had
your
to,
definition of chili? I guess that's the real question.
at this point in my life, about 70 below is starting to get chilly for me.
Oh
So, we're going to have
man,
to readapt for sure.
oh my gosh, that's insane. Good,
I know.
I
I
mean,
know.
Mississippi, Florida, and Louisiana for sure.
I know. So, it's been a while. I've been away from home and out of the cold for a while. So, I got to get used to it again.
Well, my thoughts and prayers will be with you, sir.
I appreciate
When
that.
it's 0 degrees and lower in Chicago this winter.
Yeah, that's something I don't know if I could ever do at this point in my life.
I've reflected on why people talk about Chicago summer being so good, and I think part of it is 'cause it's good, but part of it is because the winter is so bad.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like we've
For
waited
sure.
all year for this, finally.
And it's only a
Um,
short few months.
oh my gosh, yeah, it's like, well, there's a graph I follow like Midwest first. Everyone's just like memes about the Midwest, and then it's
Yeah.
like winter, and then it's like the first like fake spring. It's nice for
Mhm.
like a week, and then it's like very crappy weather for the next like three, and then it'll get nice, then it'll rain, and then it'll finally get nice, and that
Yeah.
literally happens every year,
It's just
every year.
teasing you for a little while there.
Yeah, the Midwest is something else. So,
Yeah.
my time in Texas, I will say, the weather was about as kind of up and down. Just everything was shifted, maybe like 30 degrees warmer.
Yeah, see, that's a little bit more manageable though, I would
Yeah.
say.
So it would be like in the winter, it was 40. I'd be in like shorts and a sweatshirt, making fun of everyone
Mhm.
else, and then it'd be like 100, 110. I'm like on the sidewalk in a puddle of just myself melting, and they'd be making fun of me.
Yeah,
So
of course.
it was a fun back and forth, but
Yeah. But you hang out down there long enough, you get used to the 110 and you can start making fun of the old U's.
Exactly. So fantastic. All right, so that is a little bit about where you've been, but now we'll talk about some of the big stories along the way. So we will start. Fit is an online programming software that helps you train more athletes in less time with greater individualization. For in-person or remote training, Fit does so with a streamlined programming process, decision-making trees to help you integrate data into your programming, as well as better communication with all pieces of a high-performance model involved to break down silos. Learn more at fit.io, that's fytt.io, and tell them that Matt Tometz sent you. Coaches, this podcast is sponsored by Samson Equipment. They've been providing elite strength training equipment and professional weight room solutions since 1976. If you value quality products, great customer service, and a company with integrity, then make Samson Equipment your go-to. Visit them at samsonequipment.com, that's SAMSON Equipment, and let them know that Matt Tometz sent you. With kind of the biggest fork in the road story. So basically, if you had to go back reflecting on basically, if one thing had kind of gone left instead of right, kind of this would all be very different.
Yeah. So I think there's actually kind of a couple, but I'll touch on one kind of in the beginning. That could have changed everything, to be honest with you. So when I was at Mississippi State, I was coming towards the end of my GA time and I needed a job. So I was applying, I was looking, and I won't name the school, but a university had offered me, and I had a connection there throughout the interview process and all that stuff and talking to people. They're like, it would be a really good learning experience, but it also could potentially be a really tough, like personal experience. Like you might be in the middle of nowhere. The person that oversees you may micromanage you a little bit, especially to start off. So like don't know how much autonomy you may have. So things like that. And I'm coming to the end of my GA time. It's like I need a job and I might need to just bite the bullet and do it. And I was fortunate enough to have a mentor, Seth Deiters. He actually just accepted a job in Connecticut, but Seth Deiters, he taught me and really encouraged me to just do what you think is right, man. Like there's going to be other jobs. The timing may stink right now, and you may be very uncertain, but if you feel like you need to take it to take care of yourself and everything else, then you do that. But if you feel like you can wait and you have, maybe it was 2 or 3 more months till the end of the semester and I'd be on my ass. So you can do it, take the chance, then, we'll figure it out. So I ended up declining to accept the position. And then, maybe a couple weeks or a month later, ended up getting the Florida A&M opportunity, which is a smaller school. They have their own challenges too, but, went into that position knowing, hey, I'm going to have a lot of responsibilities. I'm going to be able to do a lot on my own. I can help develop a program, and it may not be a program that I could, what's the right word, be able to be there for a long time just because the amount of demand and the time that it will take, um, for my own personal life and things like that. But it was a really, really good learning opportunity. So ended up taking that opportunity, which I think held me for the rest of my career there. The coaches and a lot of the athletes I still stay in contact with, and it was an incredible experience. So I always wonder what may have happened if I went to the first school that I had the opportunity to go to out of my graduate assistantship.
Because that's where you got in with the baseball coach, right? At Florida A&M?
At Yeah, well, I had worked with baseball at Mississippi State too.
Or that
Um,
coach got the Tulane job, right?
no, 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 that coach at Florida A&M is still there.
Oh,
So
how'd you get in with the Tulane coach?
just right timing,
Oh,
right
okay,
place, right time. Yeah. So at
gotcha.
Tulane, they went through a coaching change and they had actually posted the position because the strength coach at the time, he wasn't sure what they were going to do with the position, if he was going to be retained or let go. So he ended up getting, I mean, he landed on his feet. He's in a pretty good university. I don't know how it is on the day to day. But um, so they had posted the job first time around. Fortunate enough, they didn't like any of the candidates, so they had reposted it, and that was when I saw it, and I was fortunate enough to apply and interview, and it ended up working out. So my first year at Tulane was under, first time head coach with a brand new staff, and that was also an incredible learning opportunity. And I think there, we were all on the same page. We were all, the head coach is an older guy, but all the assistants for the most part, we were all fairly young, and we were very open to learning and trying new things. And I think it was just a really good fit for the time being and where we were all at in our careers.
So, going back, how much time passed between your gut kinda first telling you, "Oh, maybe this, like, school in the middle of nowhere isn't for me," and you actually making that decision, telling them no? Or was it kinda just throughout the interview process? Because I actually made a podcast episode about this. It's called the internship that didn't happen that changed my life or something clickbaity like that. I asked ChatGPT to
Mhm.
title it, obviously. And, and basically there was a fellowship, so it's paid, it's Power 5 football, I won't say where. and, I got the Airbnb. I was on the hook for, like, $12,000 for, like, a
Jeez.
7-month Airbnb, and
Yeah.
I was gonna be in the red, but the stipend helped, right?
Mhm.
And I just, like, had to do something to get, quote, unquote, "some experience," and I'd been a finalist, like, 8, 9 times, but I'm not counting, obviously,
Yeah.
and, and long story short, it's like a month before, or it was actually under a month. It was 20 something days, and the guy sent me all the forms. Well, I asked him actually for it, and they were all
Mhm.
volunteer forms, and I texted him, and I was like, "Hey, so do I get, like, a little bit different of a form because I have a different title and, I get my stipend?" And he goes, "No, this is unpaid, we talked about it." And I was like,
Oh, jeez.
"Oh, I mean, I wouldn't have taken it if this was unpaid," so basically that weekend, I,
Yeah.
like, called everyone I knew, um, and basically from Friday to Monday, I, like, decided that I wasn't in a position to take it. So, like, how much time passed between that first kinda doubt and you saying no, and kinda who were
Mhm.
the people that you, kinda leaned on? So you said kinda your mentor, like, kinda who else was in your corner when you were kinda going through that process?
Um, to be honest, I don't remember the exact timeline. I mean, it was a couple of days where,
So pretty
I
short.
was interviewing for it, and at first I was like, yeah, if they offer, like, I don't have much of a choice. Like, I need a job. So, like, they offer, I'm doing it. And then kind of the more we talked through the interview process, the more I talked with a couple of people that I knew that had relationships with that staff or had known about it. They started to fill me in on some of those details. And not that it would have been a bad um opportunity or position, but just for me, what I was looking for at the time is like I wanted to be able to grow. I wanted a lot of autonomy, and that just didn't seem like it was going to be that. So I think kind of as we talked throughout the process, and then probably just you have those final conversations. Maybe a couple of days go by, and then they call and let you know what your fate is. Probably just in those couple of days where I really had a chance to think about it, look at the city, look at what that had to offer, and that kind of stuff. And it just didn't sit right with me, and I just ended up not doing it.
Something that I've definitely, started doing more is kinda trust my gut, whether it's, like, big or
Yeah.
small stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll repeat, Taylor Tomlinson's joke, if you know who she is. She's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen her.
She talks about how, why you make so many mistakes in your 20s is because you don't have a gut to listen to yet, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have any grays yet either.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So very cool kind of first story. Probably one more similar that people have gone through in the past where it's that balance of, like, how much do I need it slash will make it happen, or how
Yep.
much am I willing to give versus, like, kinda waiting it out, but, it does all work out, so that's sweet. ISOFIT is not just pioneering isometric strength training, but they are opening up a brand new world of possibilities with health and performance benefits through isometric training and their own groundbreaking product. With patented force matching technology, they're reshaping the boundaries of functional health and human performance. Discover the future of health, fitness, and sports performance at isofit.com. That's ISOPHIT.com, and tell them that Matt Tometz sent you. So, next, kind of what is
Hmm.
the coolest, craziest story in a not very traditional field of S&C? So, kind of the story that you couldn't really make up if you tried.
I think one was our first year kinda at Tulane, and it'll relate back to S&C, of course. But first year at Tulane, like I said, it was first year staff. We were all new throughout the interviewing process for our head coach. They had obviously lost some key guys to the portal during that time just because of the uncertainty. What was going to happen? Those guys had to look out for themselves, and whatever. You can't blame them. Just is what it is, right? So he gets the job. The coaching staff, we all get hired basically right at the start of school. So we hit the ground running basically day one. So we're trying to glue this thing together, basically figure out what we have, what we need. We have an idea, but we didn't have enough time to plan and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, we had a fairly rough year. A lot of close games, just couldn't come through at the end and things like that. And I think if you look back on it for me, and if you look at our record, and then we ended up with the AAC tournament championship, and we somehow get a NCAA bid, and sorry
What
for
was
whoever we
that
stole it
the year
from.
y'all had, like, 19 wins?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my that was that year?
Yeah.
That was, like,
So it
the
was,
lowest total that had made the postseason or like, tied for the lowest win total, right? Something like that?
yeah, something like that. I mean, we went into the tournament with like 14 wins, and then came out of the tournament with 19. It was like it
Wild.
was a rough year, but I mean, it obviously teaches you a lot when you go through those kinds of struggles, and then you end up coming out on the other side some way somehow. But no, we had a pretty decent team. I think our thing is they were super young. We lost most of the older guys to the portal. So like I said, we were there and close in a lot of games. Granted, we had a couple games that didn't go our way at all, but um we were close and just sticking it through. I mean, 14 games won going into the tournament. Like you have a lot of reasons to just fold, show up, and then just go right back home. And I'll give it to those guys. I mean, they fought their asses off and they found a way to come through with it. But I think that's one probably the craziest season story just in terms of work wise. And I'm sure I might be able to find some other cool ones if I truly think about it. But I think that's probably the one that takes the cake for now at least.
Wild. Baseball is so weird. So when I played back in the 18th century, um, my team was historically not good. Truman State, my coach had, like, 1 winning season of 13, 12 years at the time, and
Oh
that was
wow.
this year. So it's
Hmm.
like the beginning of the year, we swept the defending national champions at their place. The next
No.
weekend went like 3-1, so we were like 7-1 to start the year. Basically split the rest of the year, and then went like 3-1 the last weekend because D2 you played doubleheader Saturday, Sunday, which looking back, I don't know how we did that.
Right.
And then went 1-2 in the conference tournament, and we were like, "Oh man, like what's gonna happen?" Like not a good showing to end the year. And then got a bid to the regional because there's only 6 teams, 8
Hmm.
regionals, 1 winner of the regional, and then the 8 teams go to, Cary, North Carolina. And,
Gotcha.
basically, like, the first 3 games of the tourney, the other team just made, like, an error in the 1st or 2nd inning, honestly, and we scored,
Oh,
like, 5 to 7 runs, and then in the championship, it's just, like, a really good game, and then we just, like, won, like, 4 to 2. And it's
nice.
funny, there was a banquet at the Carolina Hurricanes facility,
Hmm.
um, and the guy had all of the head coaches up, kinda just asking them, 3 to 5 questions about their program and everything. My coach goes 3rd, and the guy goes, "All right, coach, I'm looking at you guys on paper, and, how'd you guys get here?"
Yeah.
It's like
It's a
our
fair question. I
yeah,
mean,
it's like the joke so, like, I topped out at, like, 81. I was, like, a sidearm, lefty guy. Our ace
mhm.
was, like, pretty similar, senior, but just put the ball literally everywhere he wanted. And the joke
Yep.
would be like, because there was some scouts there, like, I remember Cody Ponce, I don't know if he's in pro ball anymore, but was, like, a 10th rounder, um, with the Brewers that, like,
Mhm.
I would go out there for my warm-up pitches, they'd, like, gun it, and then they'd just, like, put their guns down,
Like, we
Like,
saw enough. We're
"Am I
good
really
here.
watching this right now at the D2 World
Yeah.
Series?"
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so do you remember when was that moment? Because I'm sure, like, the first or second win is kinda just like, "Oh, cool, like, I guess we won," versus, like, when did it kinda hit? It's like, "Oh, man, like, we could win the tournament right now."
I think it was kinda after the 3rd game because I mean, we went through the winners bracket for the most part too, which was crazy. So I think it was we won the 1st game, won the 2nd game, and I think going to the 3rd game was like, if we win this one, like, we got a legitimate chance, and then we won it, and we're sitting there looking at each other like, "How the hell are we sitting in this position right now?" But it was really cool, and our ops guy, actually, he was probably the most optimistic out of all of us. We were sitting at dinner one night, he's like, "Dude, I could just feel it for some reason, like, I think we're gonna win this thing." I'm like, "You're out of your mind, bro."
And you can't say that
And
out
sure
loud
enough,
also.
yeah, exactly. I was like, "You're out of your mind, man." And sure enough, he was right.
Mm. 14 wins, that's tough. That's
Dude, it
tough.
was brutal.
Um, so with those kinda games, was it guys playing really well, guys stepping up, one big play for you, one big play against them? Was it, like, insane kind of pregame speeches, or was it just, like, a slow burn of just, like, like kind of lucky first game, then the second game kind of went up and up and up, or kind of like if you had to kind of put your finger on what kind of caused all that, what would you say?
Um, I'll be honest, I think it was just a combination of just some days we were there, some days we weren't. I think we would, you know, some days it would be like we're right there till the 7th inning, and then, unfortunately, someone comes from the bullpen, walks 3 guys, and now you're down 3-0 before you know it, and then it's hard to get those 3 runs back in the 8th and ninth. So, like, it was just things like that. Like, for the most part, we played pretty good, and it's just, like, one thing, whether it was one bad pitch and a homer that they walked us off, whether it was just one bad outing, or, if we made that one defensive play where someone had an error, or it wasn't technically an error, but it was a play they probably could have made type deal. It was just things like that, and then, like I said, at the end, we had some guys really step up, and the format of the tournament, I think, helped us because you're not playing 3 in a row. If you win, you get a day off, so then you're able to have a lot of guys bounce back, so you can kinda recycle the same guys, and if they're doing it and they're competing and they're able to go, like, you're in a pretty good position, whereas on a weekend series, you use a guy for a little bit on Friday, he's probably burnt till Sunday if you're lucky.
Mhm.
Um, so I think the format definitely helped us too, because we just didn't have depth. We were young, like I said, and it was just inexperience. And we had guys in there that had played all year, and then by the time they got to the tournament, they finally had enough reps and they were playing really well. And then there was other guys where it's just like, we may have had to use them during a weekend series when we probably shouldn't have, and they were too young and they needed more development, but we didn't have much of a choice. And then I think we had a couple of those guys step up in the tournament. We had a couple of guys that we were able to avoid using, and it put us in a position to be successful.
Mm. Fantastic. So I guess I'll ask one S&C kind of related question, but it's not about training, don't worry.
Yep.
So I've had my share of contributing to, we'll call them rebuilding years.
Hmm.
So in your opinion, where does the strength coach fit in slash any tips, tricks for strength coaches on how to contribute to the team in a positive way, not relative to the training when the team is kind of going through it, not getting as many wins as they maybe should or think they should be.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the standard is still the standard, right? Like we expect to win, but how we go about our daily business still doesn't change, even though we're not getting what we want. Right? So, some guys that year, they weeded themselves out. They were maybe some of the outcasts, but the guys that wanted to be there, the guys that we were going to continue to develop the program with, they were the ones that were bought in. They were the ones that were doing things the right way. And those were the guys that, but whether it truly worked or it was able just to get a little bit of a nudge from some of the other guys that weren't truly ins, like just continuing to harp on those things, like doesn't matter what happens. Like this is life.
Mhm,
You're gonna work your ass off and you're gonna get kicked in the mouth and you're not gonna get what you want. Well, guess what? You gotta go back to work and try again.
mhm.
So I think that was the big thing that I continued to communicate with the guys and reminding them that like, hey, this is like we all still have another year. Like this is the ground level. Like almost none of our guys were draft eligible that year. So like everyone's coming back if we were able to beat the portal and use all of this experience, right? And this feeling that we have right now to continue to develop for the rest of the year, one, and then two, carry us into next year.
Yeah, the feedback I've gotten, at least what the guys kind of appreciated, was the consistency from the training stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So keeping the standard and, just being that thing that they could rely on, because I'm
Hmm.
sure, not that sport coaches have emotions that go up and down with how the team is doing, just
Hmm.
theoretically speaking. Um,
Yeah.
but I think just that one thing that they can just lean on of, like, knowing that, like, I'm gonna be in a good mood, or it's gonna be a fun hour or a good hour, or even just I found success in just even though it's for, baseball in this case, even just saying like, "Hey,
Hmm.
guys, I know it's a long weekend, just, let's make this the best hour of your week,"
Yeah.
Or give
Yep.
me a super hard 45 minutes, and then I'll get you guys on your way, things like
For
that. So I
sure.
think being able to separate kind of the training stuff from
Hmm.
everything else, definitely went a long way with the guys.
Yeah.
So last, we will kind of wrap it up. So the biggest kind of full circle story. So now that you have some grays to listen to, or maybe you don't. Um, the
That's why I
this
keep the fade. You
exactly.
gotta hide them, yeah.
Yeah, my brother, my twin brother, he had to do like touch of gray for his wedding.
Mhm.
And the longer it gets, it's like, holy crap, like you are a lot more gray than I thought.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so smart for sure. So the story that definitely took some time to kind of develop or kind of come full circle. So the story that you're most proud of, or the one that it took a few years maybe to kind of see it kind of all come together.
I don't know if it's necessarily a most proud moment, but the one that kind of comes to mind with this question is it kind of does relate to strength and conditioning, but for me, it was like at first when I was a GA and we started getting a lot of different pieces of technology, I was like, I am out. I don't want anything to do with a lot of these pieces of technology because the way we were using them at the time was, or I was seeing it be used, it was like we were testing every day. It was taking away from a lot of training, and we weren't really doing anything with the data. So I was like, if this is what sports science is like I am out because like I would rather just focus on the basics and I want to train the kids and I want to have a good time and I want to help them get better and all that stuff. Like jumping every day and it's taking 20 minutes to get everyone through, like that's not really it. You still got to warm up and actually be able to train. So I was kind of like I had very limited sports science stuff, obviously at Florida A&M, and then once I get to Tulane, my first year we didn't really use anything, and then second year there's like a set of force plates sitting there, and I'm like, all right, maybe let's see what we can do with these things. Um, so we ended up using them last year, and I built them into we would just test once a week, and I would kind of have different groups test on different days of the week, especially for pitchers, depending on when they were throwing. We would build it into their day before live, or for bullpen guys before Friday because they'll be available then. And then starting pitchers rotate through based on their week, and then position players had a certain day. So like it was fairly easy, and I was like, if we're gonna do this, let's make it as simple as possible. And I don't want to eat up a lot of time with training. So that's what we did. And honestly, I really ended up liking it to a part where I don't know if I'd be able to, not that I don't know if I'd be able to have a program without it, but like the value in it. And I don't necessarily use it to put different athletes in different buckets and, manipulate a ton of different training volume and things like that. I kind of do that off years training, years in the program of and experience and things like that. And then a lot of the stuff, yeah, the numbers help you can kind of see with your eyes. Like that guy's strong enough. Let's not mess with that anymore and kind of go from there. But um, what we did is we just tracked progression over the year. A big emphasis last year for our program was to get the mantra was built to last, right? So we want to put on a bunch of size and we want to retain that size. Well, if we're putting on a bunch of size, we want to be able to retain our athleticism and our ability to produce force into the ground, right? So that's why I use the force plates. Okay, we're gonna put on a bunch of body weight. We had guys gain however much amount of weight you want to say, but they are also still getting more athletic. So like now I have proof and numbers to say, hey, I did my job based on the parameters that we um wanted to train or enhance, whatever you want to call it. Um so yeah, I mean I think that was kind of a big one for me. It was like I'm out on technology and then it's like, oh man, like this is actually truly valuable if you really do it the right way. And obviously it takes time. You have to have the right amount of resources and all that stuff. But if you're able to find a way and it almost feels like nowadays, in my opinion, if you're not using a bunch of technology, it could feel like you're way behind, right? Like everyone has the latest bells and whistles and it's incorporated to training. And I think at heart, I have a lot of that old school in me still, but I still want to track and I want to say, this is what we're doing for our athletes. This is how we're getting better. Or if something is glaringly staring at us, like something may be wrong. All right, now we can go investigate and have those conversations and figure out what's going on.
I think there's a few good things in that story, and I'll try to bring them all together. So first, I think you have to understand the main thing is the main thing, you know?
Yeah,
When although testing is training and training is testing, more or less, it's like at the end of the day, like you don't have to jump on force plates to get better. You have to actually train, you
for
know?
sure. Yeah. Yep.
But I remember I got back from my GA at TCU
Hmm.
and we had 1080 sprints, or my boss had bought one, and this was back in 2020, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've only seen this on social media, like, how on earth am I ever gonna, like, learn this?" And I
Yeah.
literally just did, like, 3 workouts on my own on it, and just
Yep.
felt so much more comfortable just, like, running it, because the software and everything like that, and of course, you get better at coaching with it over time. So I think
For
it's
sure. Yeah.
getting on it yourself, getting a feel for it, but then also, like, you were able to name kinda um why you weren't using it. So it's not only does it take time, but it's like, no, this isn't coming back to making me better, you know?
Hmm.
And then if you can put your finger on why you're not using it or why you don't really have an affinity towards it, well then you can say, all right, well then how do I kind of meet it in the middle? You know?
For sure.
So instead of going whole team 3 times a week, well, can I do a third of the team once a week? And then kind of
Hmm.
go from there.
Yep.
And then what I like, similar to how having spent a whole year with force plates, gym awares, things like that, where it's like, I don't know if I could like not have that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm an adaptable coach and I would make it happen, of course. But force
But
plates are
having it would
nice.
be really
Yeah.
nice too.
But it would
Yeah.
be super nice if we had that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, just to have a little bit more detailed numbers. So like when you talk about putting on weight but staying more athletic, it's like, well, yeah, to the average Joe, like you could put on some weight, and maybe not jump as high, maybe jump the same, but their jump
Hmm.
momentum is probably going through the roof.
Yeah.
So just being able to look at things in a little bit different way, um, a little bit more detailed kind of tech helps you out. Um,
Yeah,
and
I think for
then
us to oh, sorry to cut
no,
you off a little
go
bit
for
there,
it.
but to cut you off a little bit, but for us to, like, we were kinda playing around with some body weights too, so, like, this kid came in at 190, it's like, "Hey, I think he might be able to get to 220," and obviously it may not be in 1
Jeez,
year, but
drop the
you know,
bulking
maybe
program.
yeah, right. So maybe we're trying to get him there, and we notice at like 210 or 205, even whatever it is, that like he's not moving well. Those numbers look terrible. Like, all right, now we need to remodify our plan a little bit. So it kind of helps a little bit in the short term and the long run. But I think overall is like you have to keep it simple and you have to know exactly what you're looking at.
Mhm. Yeah, and having 50% optimal kind of like data and stuff, let's say one
Hmm.
data point instead of 3. So even 33% of your data, as long as you have a plan, it's actually doing something is better than 0%, you know?
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
So saying like getting my pocket radar in the weight room with my guys, having even just the pitchers, for example, would be like 15 to 20 guys in
Hmm.
a 45-minute session, and it's like, all right, like you have 3 throws per set. Do your first 2 throws over there, and then come over here and measure your last one.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's like, oh, if I can only measure one of the 3, well, I'm just not gonna do it at all then. It's like not the most high level thinking, you know?
Hmm.
And then just
Hmm.
to frame it like, hey, you guys get a total of 3 throws today because you got 3 sets, like make them count. Versus like imagine if they were measuring all 9. Well, baseball
Right.
guys are a little psycho, so maybe that'd be fine. Um,
Yeah.
but just being creative and like, how do I keep training the main thing and then make it fit in a way that is really good data, but we're still gonna train because that's how you actually get better. And
Hmm.
then you can kinda like go from there. And then the processes become a little bit more efficient and effective, and then you can kinda go from there. But yeah, it's crazy going from, "Oh, man, these force plates are not it," to like, "Wait, we don't have force plates? How am I supposed to do
Yeah.
this?" You know?
Exactly, and now it's the game of we have a different kind of force plates than what I'm used to using before, so now it's like, "Alright, now how do I use these ones?" So, we'll figure it out, but it's a good problem to have regardless.
It's all gonna spit out 80 plus numbers, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But that's great. So yeah, very very cool stories. This is let me guess, if we count your GA, year 7?
This'll be if you count the G it was like a GA/intern, so if you count that, it's going on to my so it's 3 it's going to my 8th then.
8th year, gotcha.
Yeah.
I figured 2-2-2-1, but one of those stops was probably a 3-year.
Yeah,
Um,
the GA/internship was a 3-year.
gotcha. Very
Yep.
cool. So, very glad that I ran into you. That was our opening weekend, right?
Mhm.
Super cool field at Tulane that it was actually modeled after the minor league park. It felt like a minor league
Yeah.
park.
Yeah,
But
it
that was
was nice.
definitely my favorite part of this past season was whether it was going to spots or guys coming in town, just like kicking it with the strength coaches. Because honestly, like the pitchers know how to train, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a familiar program. So basically, just watching my guys kind of train and then just like shooting it with the strength coach for an hour or so and things like that. So, um, thank you for being so hospitable, kind of way back when. Glad we kind of stayed in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank
I'm
you for
glad we was
sharing
able
your
to help out.
yeah for sharing your stories from your journey so far. And I will roll out the red carpet for you, sir, to shamelessly plug, emphasis on the shameless, plug whatever you got to plug, and where can the people get more of Coach Torres?
To be honest with you, I don't do a whole lot on social media or anything um so I'm probably most active on Instagram. It is Neeks21 with 3 E's, so look me up, or if you want, just shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to hop on a call with, anyone that wants to talk shop or ask questions or anything like that. Um, my email is nico@gocards.com now. So,
Nice.
feel free to reach out, but, I'm not very active on social media. Maybe that'll change here soon, but, easiest way is either just a DM or shoot me an email. We can be in touch.
You're on IG, not on IG unless you're plugging those core powers.
Yeah. So one of our players wanted to be like a photographer, and he was out for the year. He had something that he had to take care of. So we used him as like one of our media guys.
Nice.
And last year, big emphasis was putting on weight. So had to make sure that they were staying fueled with core powers, and they made a video out of it.
Y'all had those like double core powers because core powers, for people that don't know, it's Fairlife. I want to say they're like
Fairlife, yeah.
they're like $4 a shake at like Costco.
Yeah.
Um, it's like 170 calories for like 26 grams of protein. But didn't y'all have the ones that had like 40 grams?
Yeah, we had like 40 grams of protein. It was like 350 calories or something like that. I think we were fortunate enough to have a deal with Fairlife, so we were just handing those things out with like candy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember we came to lift the day before that Thursday night, and our guys noticed that and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" Like they have the double one. Um,
Yeah.
so for sure, that's where you can find Coach Nico. So thank you very much again for your time, sir, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and, thanks for having me on. Thank you for your time, and look forward to talking soon.